Hey, there's Justin again. This is day 7 of the 30 for 30 on the meaning and the significance of resurrection of Jesus. And hey, I want to talk about back in 9/11. I'll never forget the shock and the terror that I experienced seeing those two towers in New York City collapse after being attacked by hijackers who had taken airplanes and used them as weapons, flying them into the sides of these buildings. And the thousands of people who died in this. Well, I'm flabbergasted that some people would make claims that what I experienced there and saw with my eyes on television was all a conspiracy by maybe George W. Bush and the U.S. government, that they attacked themselves, literally. And this is in the face of lots of video evidence of Osama bin Laden taking credit for these attacks, and decades of the U.S. government trying to capture him and kill him and attacking Al-Qaeda in response to those events. So it's just flabbergasting to me to think that someone would believe a conspiracy theory such as that, some clear fake news. When you're talking about the resurrection of Jesus, it's very polarizing. You either love Jesus or you hate him, and you're against him, and you're biased right out the gate. So you've got Holocaust deniers out there, flat earthers, moon landing with stage people, Jay-Z and Beyonce are part of the Illuminati. You've got the coronavirus isn't going to come here. You've got people who just will not listen to reason. People who will try to explain away the evidence rather than seeing where the evidence goes, and accepting the best plausible explanation. So I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys who actually really believed a conspiracy theory when it came to the resurrection. That's that it can't be true because it's a miracle, and we know miracles can't be true. And that's really, if you want to think about it, the only possible explanation for the fact that Jesus didn't rise from the dead, if it's all made up, because there's no good evidence or no good theory besides that he actually did. That I'm going to reject out of hand miracles as being possible because there's no other explanation. In fact, the Bible in Matthew 28:11-15 says that the soldiers who were there guarding the tomb saw what happened, and they go and report this to the elders and the chief priests, the Jewish leaders of the religious leaders there. And then what the religious leaders do is they give them money and say, hey, go tell people that Jesus' disciples came during the middle of the night, stole the body while you're asleep, and if the governor, Pilate, raises any kind of objection to this, we will pay him. We will keep you out of trouble here. So they took the money and did it as directed, and it says in the text there, Matthew 28:15, that story still goes around to that day whenever Matthew was writing in the first century. And so that's our first conspiracy theory right there. That's our first possible explanation, is that the disciples stole the body away. We're going to look at that one, 3 others, and we're going to talk about what's the only logical or reasonable explanation for it. So the first one, conspiracy theory. Jesus stole the body, just like the people who deny that Al-Qaeda had anything to do with 9/11. How is this plausible? You've got the evidence of the empty tomb on Sunday morning. You try to explain that away as far as Jesus was alive again. So what you're gonna do here is you're gonna create more questions and answers here. So what would the disciples have to gain from such a lie? Like oh, we're gonna steal the body and lie and say that he rose from the dead, right? That's what a lot of people will allege even today, that it was stolen. It's an easy conspiracy theory, right? But would those disciples be willing to die for such a belief? Would they be willing to suffer and be persecuted for such a belief? We got dogs running around crazy out here. How would there be anyone who wouldn't confess to this lie? How would this be plausible? Someone would have talked. Someone would have said, hey, let me tell you what really happened. There's no evidence of that. No one out there can bring forward any kind of evidence like that. And frankly, a lot of people died for this lie. If it's a conspiracy theory, if it's all made up, they stole the body, made it up, it's crazy. Okay, makes no sense. as silly as people who doubt 9/11, moon landing, JFK's assassination, everything. Okay, you're explaining away the evidence rather than following where it leads. Okay, number two is similar. It's that the Roman authorities moved the body, but there's no clear motive for that. They, like, if you look at what the history says, is that they sealed the tomb, they guarded it. Why would they move the body? And another defeater for that position is that there's actually not just an empty tomb, but there's physical appearances of Jesus. So this makes no sense. The body could have easily been produced and said, "Oh, no, wait, he's dead." We got a dog fight going right here. Okay, we got a lot of dogs in the fight here. We got lots of dogs fighting about this. This is a very passionate topic with people, so they will debate this endlessly. But these are bad. These are two bad theories off the bat. The conspiracy theory and the Roman authorities had something to do with it. They're real encounters with the resurrection of Jesus. You got to talk about that. There's more than just a missing body here. There's the physical body of Jesus walking around afterwards. Okay, 3. And this is a funny one. It's the swoon theory. Now, this is that Jesus is not dead, but mostly dead view. It's kind of the Princess Bride theory. Is that the Roman authorities, the soldiers who are good at killing people, good at crucifying people, and making sure they're dead, somehow botched this one. Like, he was just mostly dead, and then after being laid in the tomb, mostly dead, is resuscitated sort of magically, gets up after being flogged, beaten, crucified, etc., almost dead, mostly dead, takes the grave clothes off, lays them there nicely, pushes the rock away, overcomes the guards, and then shows himself to the disciples and says, "Hey, look, I was dead, and now I'm alive again." So he lies. This is all just, the craziest theory of all, and is ridiculous. And by the way, Jesus says, "Hey, get me to a doctor because I'm really beat up here." There's nothing to go with on that one, the swoon theory. So the fourth and final one we're going to look at is the mass hallucination theory. This explains it away. Well, because we know people have, like, masses of people, hundreds of people have the same hallucination all the time, right? No, it never happens. There's no scientific evidence or reports of this where masses of people all experience the same hallucination, which is that, hey, Jesus, who was dead, is now alive again, and moving around, eating fish, eating breakfast, catching fish, appearing to people all over the place over a period of time. So and then hallucinations, so I hear, they tend to align with your expectations. Now, people were not expecting Jesus to rise from the dead, so this theory has to be rejected. So why was the tomb empty? What's the best explanation? And I would say the only plausible explanation for the events after Jesus' crucifixion. If his bones were still buried and are still buried, what alternative explanations are there? Well, there are none. There's no other explanation. The bones can't be buried because there are appearances here. The only reason, like I said, is that you could really make a case here is that this can't be true because we know miracles can't happen. If miracles can't happen, it can't be true. So we have to have some other explanation, but there is none. So we're left with the only one that makes sense here is the resurrection of Jesus. Because how would you explain the historical origins of Christianity? If he's just another dead, likely or probable Messiah or pretender here, this thing would have died away. Only the resurrection of Jesus makes sense of those willing to die, those willing to give their lives for it, willing to fight and die for this. And then you place it there, right there at the center of the New Testament, the center of the church and the origins of it. Jesus called his shot, as we mentioned in the last video. And this makes sense with years and years and years of church history, of pre-Christ history in the Bible, and all building to this event of the death and resurrection of Jesus. So when considering the resurrection of Jesus, it has so much evidence going for it. Go look at the previous video with Babe Ruth and how Jesus called his shot from the resurrection. And you got to understand that when it comes to Jesus, no one's neutral. I wasn't neutral, and I'm not neutral now. I am very much for Jesus, but I used to be against him. And I used to reject him out of hand because I knew it couldn't be true. But now I know it is. So you're either for him or against him, and you may be prone to believe the conspiracy theories here. But let me tell you this. The good news is that You can be like me. You can be forgiven. You can be welcomed by Jesus if you, as Romans 10:9 says, confess that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. You will be saved. That's good news, and that's why we're gathering on Easter Sunday, Lord willing, April 12th, 10:30 a.m., 324 West Main Street, to celebrate the greatest news of all, that the tomb was empty. The one they were looking for was not there. He's alive again. Jesus is alive, and he's still alive, and he's still reigning. So, guys, 30 for 30, day 6 is in the books. We'll see you next time.